Steve Dangle Podcast. Powered by Sports Interaction. Wanna bet?
Steve P. The Steve Dangle Podcast. With your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Oh, and what a weekend it was.
Yeah.
What a weekend it was.
Watch Hockey Night in Canada with Steve Dangle. It was a great time.
And the player cast.
Yeah. What was your favorite part?
Luke Gazdick saying that he thinks it's wrong that the QMJHL banned fighting.
I don't think Luke Gazdick was on this week's episode.
No, but he was on Sports.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Oh, I got an axe to grind with Luke Gazdick in a little bit.
Why?
I'm using this as a tease.
What?
Is
Yes.
this a personal vendetta
I am
you have
upset with
against?
Luke Gazdick. Come on, Luke. No, I'm not actually that upset, but I think I would disagree with him, and I think it's an opinion that's worth discussing because I think he represents the other side. So that's one of the things. I'm doing both here.
Yeah?
So you're both interested, aren't you?
No.
All right, motherfucker. Fine. Also, I had a bad weekend because my favorite Formula One team finished dead last and second dead last.
No, somebody didn't finish the
you're right.
race, so
Yeah.
you guys were technically second last.
Yeah, and Piastri passed Logan Sargent on the last lap.
Yeah.
But
It was okay.
My team, who I started cheering for when they were in third, is now back of the pack. Terrible. Awful team.
Shoot.
But that's my team.
I'm cheering for the Mauve Avenger.
The Mauve Avenger. Oh, thank you for that. That's a Simpsons one, right?
Hey, Arnold.
Hey, Arnold. Okay.
How dare you?
Listen.
How dare you?
Oh, swing and a miss.
How dare you? No.
Welcome
it was
to my
very
career.
good.
Deep drive to left field.
So obviously, the thing that we're avoiding at the moment, but we're going to jump right into is the James Reimer situation. But I think, Steve, you have a way that you want to handle this today because, if you don't know, Steve and James go way back. Like Sean Fitzgerald interviewed James when Steve's book came out to talk about Steve's devotion to James Reimer. It's been a very sweet sort of back and forth. But what obviously, the San Jose Sharks who decided to handle Pride Night in a way that no one else ever has in terms of like their social media, putting out facts. They didn't even tweet the game score. They were, trying to do this and really do it right. You got, what is it? 19 players that'll wear the jersey and James won't.
Yeah.
And I have a clip. Now, James put out a statement before the game, and it was through the San Jose Sharks Twitter that we found out about it. Steve, you read it, and I encourage you to go to the LFR to talk about it, or to hear Steve's full nuanced opinion, because it's like 15 minutes. But I thought this was a part that really stood out to me about saying, hey, I love everyone, I just won't put on the jersey. Go ahead, Jesse.
Really interesting because if you reverse the order of the last two paragraphs, it makes it seem much more contradictory. I strongly believe that every person has value and worth, and the LGBTQIA+ community, like all others, should be welcomed in all aspects of the game of hockey. The second last paragraph, in this specific instance, I am choosing to not endorse something that is counter to my personal convictions, which are based on the Bible, the highest authority in my life. Which convictions? Which ones? Be specific.
And we can stop it there.
You're
So the thing that you want to do today is celebrate the good here with the Sharks and not, unfortunately, James Reimer's decision soaked up all the good.
Yeah, and I said my piece. It was 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear that or see that, you can check it out on the last LFR video. I don't want this to hijack the show.
Mm-hmm.
It was Saturday. It's Monday now. That doesn't mean it's not an issue. It's just I didn't want it to hijack the show. I'm mad. I'm disappointed. I'm sad. There's been a lot of discussion online. Almost none of it helpful.
That's so true.
That's extremely true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you're saying followed by something
Antidote.
something
Antidote,
by
yeah,
something
yeah.
no one is saying.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying, and there's a lot of
What about it?
there's a lot of whataboutism. There's a lot of fantasy. There's a lot of cosplay. not a whole lot of truth or productive discussion. So, tuning all that nonsense.
And I think it's important. And this is if this statement doesn't apply to you, then disregard it. But if it does, to everybody who is feeling the results of his actions this weekend, and I'm talking about James Reimer, who feels alienated, who I was in conversations that I had with people who are in the community. It's very easy to feel like hockey hates you. It doesn't. And I will say this, that you are welcome here and you are loved. And I think that's an important thing to say. And it's funny. You see the comment section go, why do they need to hear that? Well, if you feel that way, then you probably didn't need to hear it.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there are people that do. And I think it's important that we do come out and say that. It's a frustrating situation. And I think, Steve, to sum it up quickly, somebody's well within their rights to make that call, but we're well within our rights to criticize. And I don't think that we could, on this show, have a better discussion about it than what you said on the LFR.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
To highlight some of the good stuff, Marissa Ignemi on Twitter. Ingemi, sorry.
Friend of the show.
Highlighted some of the people who went to Sharks Pride Night. I thought it was very sweet. And she just chronicled like people who really appreciate these Pride Nights and who attended from faraway locations. Like this group came from Reno, which is in Nevada.
Oh, wow.
And then there's Nessa here, and they all brought their flags and their signs, and they're very happy just to see the jerseys and celebrate with the other people in the building. And these Pride Nights, they mean a lot to people. I love Kieran, an older gentleman. He played for the San Francisco Earthquake since the 90s and has played in the gay games. And he said, I feel like it's important having a safe space for people to feel free to completely identify and completely be who they are and be inclusive with our allies. And he has a signed Sharks Pride jersey, and he's holding it up, and he's a very nice gentleman. It's just a nice thread where she just highlights, hey, these Pride Nights mean a lot to people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There you go.
Okay, so I think the one thing that has become more and more of a question is will they even continue? And that's going to be an open question. And I think what's interesting as it currently stands is that I don't know there's very many people at the talk that can directly say that their experience is one of firsthand. And so the way the NHL handles this going forward is going to be very interesting, but they are going to have to do something.
I think a lot of the teams just are going to do away with the jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one thing when you have a Pride Night and it's Pride Night, but there's no jerseys. I think it's another thing when there's a Pride Night and you promise jerseys and then you take the jerseys away.
Right. Like the Leafs have never done the jerseys.
Right. So like the exact same thing could happen to the Leafs or to your team, but we don't know because they haven't done it.
Mm-hmm.
But they've never promised it. Right. So it's one thing if you never promise something, it's another when you do and then you take it away.
James Reimer was asked about the jerseys and him participating previously with Pride Tape. And he said that the jerseys were more in your face and the Pride Tape wasn't. He was asked that post game. So
that was a very odd line to draw.
Yeah.
Like any like signed Pride pucks, like people were posting. It's an odd line to draw. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you need to think he's a bad person in order to think he's wrong here. I think people are nuanced. I had a lot of people sending me anecdotes of, good things that he did and time that he gave people. And
I don't think that's ever been in question, though.
No, I think people are complicated.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes good people do questionable things and questionable people do good things. And yeah, welcome to life, man.
Something I would highly recommend you look up is Daniel Wagner, Pasitabulis, who obviously has had a major part of Canucks Twitter. I think we mentioned Pasitabulis on like our first episode ever. Like it was
been around a long
time. And Daniel himself talked about how he characterized himself as a passive homophobic Christian like James Reimer. And I highly suggest you check out the thread. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but basically, he talks about how it took time to change his views and why he came to that conclusion. Well worth the read. Well worth the read. And a good story to come out of this. So, like Steve said, we're not going to let James Reimer hijack this. Big shout out to the Sharks for the way they handled the social media through this and the facts that they were putting out. I thought that was good.
Logan Couture was awesome.
Logan Couture.
Brian Burke.
Yeah,
Brian
absolutely.
Burke, yeah.
There are definitely places that we need more from. Like You Can Play has not even issued a statement, which is
They haven't?
no.
I wonder if they look at Burke releasing a statement as their statement.
Okay, maybe. As of least of this recording, no.
Not that.
Yeah. So
They retweeted it.
yeah.
So they probably do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's the same old stuff. So why don't we move to the hockey thing? Unless you guys want to cover the Nazem Kadri thing that James slipped in there as well.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No, I think Nas is probably going to get asked about it, and no.
Yeah. It felt like a guy who was
Grasping at straws.
yeah, he was drowning and reaching for the surface in any kind of air.
You don't need us to comment on this. I'll read you the quote. Okay. In Toronto, Nazem Kadri as a teammate loved him to death. I don't know exactly to the extent of his faith, his Muslim faith, but he's a Muslim. I think you could talk to him and ask him if I treated him any different. I love him. I competed with him on the ice. We joked around. We did life together. And yet people would understand if I wouldn't wear a Muslim jersey in warmups, promoting the Muslim faith, being a Christian and a follower of Christ. He himself would fully understand that. So we'll leave it at that. Yeah, I know. It's and this is the thing. You do feel like it's right around the corner. Like I do feel like he's one of those guys. I want to believe that he's one of those guys that eventually gets there. I want to believe that we can all be there.
That's my hope.
Yeah.
I maybe I'll end with a lot of people are like, what? Like, did you seriously not think that he thought these things? I don't know. I don't assume things about anyone. He's a devout Christian. Lots of people are. Lots of people
don't have a problem with this.
Yep. Lots of devout people within their faith don't have a problem with Pride Night or wearing a jersey. So no, I didn't assume that.
Yeah, this isn't a religion thing. It's your interpretation of it.
It's not an anti-Christianity thing either.
Absolutely not.
Which a lot of people try to turn it into.
Come on, get out of here with that.
Yeah,
that's nonsense.
I said what I had to say.
Yep. So watch the LFR to check it out. It's an uncomfortable subject, but listen, if we don't get a little uncomfortable here, we're not gonna move forward as a society. We're not gonna solve these problems. And everybody is tired of this coming up. You're tired? We're all tired. We're tired. So let's move on. Let's talk about the games. This weekend, the Leafs took on, I think, two formidable opponents. Now, Leaf fans were giving me shit about saying Ottawa was a key matchup for them, but I think they were. And
that's a huge win.
Exactly, but we'll get to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is Canes 5-2 Friday night.
So the Leafs rested at home. Was it a home? Yeah, it was the St. Pat's game. They should win that game. All things equal, you hope they win that game.
The Canes don't have Svechnikov.
Well, that too, but they're not going to have him for the rest of the season,
yeah.
right? And
yeah.
Leafs don't have O'Reilly. I don't know if that's the same, but it's professional sports. Everyone's missing someone, right? It's rare that you're not. So I took far more from the Leafs beating another top team in the standings, like fairly handily, than I did from the next night where the Sens kind of caved them in, but the Leafs pulled off the win anyway. Huge win in Carolina or against Carolina.
Well, I think, obviously there's always the fact that the Carolina Hurricanes are ahead of them in the standings, or at least were. And the fact that Carolina should be, and they're rarely talked about because there's bigger markets that are taking up the oxygen, like the New York Rangers. But the Carolina Hurricanes are a perennial, they should probably get to the Eastern Conference favorite. And each year it's the second round and out.
They have a lot of similarities with Colorado. Colorado was second round and out, and then they finally got over the hump last year. So if I'm Carolina, I try to take some lessons from that. Washington was that team for a long time too. So teams do get out of this purgatory.
What do you like about the way the Leafs played in the 5-2 is a pretty significant win.
Yeah. There was production from lower in the lineup. Fourth line got the first goal of the game. I think it was Achari, and then he got hurt because, of course.
By the way, he has no. The Leafs are saying he did not sustain a concussion. He was just held out of the lineup just because.
Yeah. Well, okay, great, good. Then they get their top right winger going up against the Hurricanes' top right winger, or at least top scorer in Marty Nietzsche's, and just burning him, making him look like an absolute pylon. And then the third goal was a little bit of luck. Because sometimes you put yourself in a position to succeed. You put yourself in a position to have a puck go off, yeah? And they did, and they got a little bit of goaltending. The defense was nice. Luke Shen with that big hit on Aho. Yeah, give me a little bit more of that, Luke.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. It was just a complete win. You're probably not going to run the Hurricanes out of the building, and they didn't. But they were, I thought, the better team for the vast majority of the game.
Samsonov went on, I think it was IR the next day, because Wool came up because Samsonov's wife, I believe, is either giving birth or has given birth to a child.
Yeah, they said,
which is crazy. That's crazy timing for them. That's a lot. It's a lot mid-hockey season for them. So wish them the best.
They said it was a little combination of he's battling some things and his wife is about to give birth. They just started a 5-game road trip, or we're going to after this Carolina thing. So yeah, man, take as much time as you need. Take the week.
So you go back to back with travel, but it's an hour flight.
It's manageable travel. It's still a pain in the ass.
And so you're going to Ottawa and you're playing the Sens the next night. The reason I think it was a key matchup for the Leafs is because it was a character matchup. You're going on second half of back-to-back against the team that regularly embarrasses the Leafs.
Yes, in Ottawa. And it was, maybe Sheldon Keefe's greatest challenge all season. Because you went with the Slurpee lineup, 7-11, and then you play the final 40 minutes with 10 forwards because Achari's out. Like, half the lineup played like career highs, right? And then you're forced to go with this weird Franken lineup of 12-6. You have 4 guys who didn't play the night before, including your goalie. And he had to do a lot of managing of that bench. That, I think, the Sens killed the Leafs in terms of shots on goals, or on goal, because that lineup to me wasn't built to thrive.
No,
it was built to survive.
It was built to let's just get through this. That was not the Leafs presenting their best.
No, they won.
They won, but it wasn't them presenting their best lineup.
No, I couldn't believe it. And of the 52 shots Matt Murray faced, he made some great saves, but it never really felt like he was getting hung out.
I did think he was positionally sound, and I thought the Leafs defense was at least clearing rebounds most of the time.
And there were a lot.
Yes. Well, there are 52 shots.
Yeah. It's been a bit of a problem this season, the rebound control, whether it's Murray or Samsonov in net, but they've done a much better job of clearing them, and maybe the new strategy, because I know their numbers haven't looked great recently. Maybe this team is evolving into a team that gives up a little bit more shots than they used to, but fewer scoring chances, ideally.
Okay.
Ideally.
But still, okay. We're 30 minutes into the game, and there was 30 shots against.
It was bad.
You can't do that.
Well, that I think a lot is the Sens doing. And the Leafs didn't meet them, which I thought was interesting. The Sens were just as good offensively as just as good defensively, as they were offensively. They didn't give the Leafs any time, any space. They were skating them into the ice. And I think DJ Smith and the Sens' hope was that the Leafs would try to keep up with them and tire themselves out, so they'd be softened up and the Sens could beat them in the later half of the game. Leafs didn't do that. Now, it resulted in them getting outshot into oblivion, but they actually kind of got better as the night went. I thought.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I want to say, good game for Matt Murray. Positionally sound. He even knocked the post off. That's how you know he's on fire.
Oh, yeah, and the ref gave him a little talking to.
Yeah, but he needed, especially after that Edmonton game where he clearly was not in it from the start, even though they won. That, to me, is like, okay, that's a good backup. That's a good backup performance. He's the backup.
Yeah, he's overpaid.
Sure. I don't think, but does it, like, anyone care at $4 million? Is anybody that bothered by it?
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. And so now he's on this weird streak of consecutive games giving up 4 goals or more. I didn't see anyone bring that stat up, though.
Well,
because not all 4 games are equal.
That's right. Yeah.
He faced a shitload of rubber.
He did.
In that one. And, like, the goals, too. Like, the
second goal where it was, like, the deflection.
That was the first one.
Oh, that was the first one.
That was the first. So it goes off of Gauthier's skate. I've never seen someone, like, donkey kick it with their heel, have it go up and over the goalie. And then the game-tying goal, I think it was one of Brady Tkachuk's goals, was the goal that I always allow in Chell, where I crouch block, and I'm like, yes, I did good defensively, and the puck goes straight to another guy. So, so Murray's out of position for that, and McCabe gives it away, but neither is their fault.
I got a couple questions about overtime in the shootout.
Okay.
Guys, these are Sheldon Keefe questions. If Sheldon were here, I'd be asking him this.
Okay.
Why are you starting overtime when you have overwhelming talent compared to the Senators? I'm not trashing the Senators. The Leafs are 7 years into this development program. The Senators are probably 2 or 3, right? The Leafs have far and away the best firepower of the two teams, despite what Senators Twitter thought last summer. And I am just curious as to why gaining possession off the start in overtime is not important to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Why are you starting Kampf, Marner, Liljegren?
Because Kampf, they think, is their best chance of getting the puck.
Yeah.
Right? But also
Matthews is over 50% on his faceoffs.
So I do think that's fair. That's fair to point out that the Leafs are one of the best faceoff teams in the
league. All of them are good at it.
And they shouldn't be worried about sending anyone out there. They should be able to send Matthews, Tavares, Kampf, even Lafferty.
He was good.
They should be able to send out there. They shouldn't be O'Reilly if they really wanted to. They shouldn't be afraid of sending anybody out there. But I think what's interesting about the Leafs in overtime is they don't care about the pace. I think the strategy used to just be throw your 3 fastest guys out there, followed by the next 3 fastest guys. They don't care about pace. The Leafs like to play it nice and slow now in overtime, and they've had to completely change their strategy because
they're not fast anymore either.
No,
the Leafs are not a fast team.
Not overwhelmingly, but like I saw that their record on the season in overtime was 6-7, which is miraculous because they started, I think, 1-6.
Yes. Yeah.
So, which means they're doing really good recently. So this whole thing of starting Kampf and either 2 defensemen or it doesn't matter. I think they've settled on Kampf, Liljegren, Marner. It's worked. It's worked. And we were on the phone for the first one. That was the night I broke my nose. we were on the phone for the first one.
Here's the thing with that is it didn't work. It did not work against the Senators. Because what happened was Ottawa gained possession and the Leafs couldn't get it back.
Yeah, but the other way didn't work for the beginning portion of the season. Like, we've seen Matthews, Marner, Riley a million times to start the year.
We can slow the pace, but still have the more talented players out there. There's no excuse.
I don't
to have those guys. You put Matthews out there to start overtime. End of story.
Yeah, but they did that, and then it didn't work, and then it became a running gag that you were like, they could start anybody else, and then they did that, and it's been working. So why would you go away from what's working when they did what you tried and it didn't work?
I also because they were trying to go. It was the pacing that was the issue, right? They were trying to go too fast.
I think the way that overtime went was by design, by the way, and it wasn't that they were too fast. It's what happens with speed when you're going north south, north south, north south. If you're going as fast as you, not just exhausted. But you go as fast as you can north, you turn it over, and it's that much harder to stop and go the other way, which the Leafs kept getting caught, kept giving up 2 and 3-on-1s and 2-on-0s and breakaways and everything.
Mhm.
So instead of doing that, they've slowed the entire pace down. So when their guys do get caught out there, Kampf was caught out there for a long shift. Liljegren was caught out there for a long shift. Matthews was caught out there for a long shift. Tavares was caught out there for a long shift. What they do is, yeah, those guys are tired. They're not as tired as they might have been. And they're also not giving up the rush chances that they were. Because even though the Sens were managing the puck really well, they still weren't getting what they wanted.
Right, and the Leafs weren't getting anything either.
No,
and then you're
they
going
did
to a
have to
shootout
rely-
where the Leafs are terrible.
Yes. Well, they won. They did have to rely on one really good save from Murray, if I remember correct.
Okay, and that's fair. In overtime, you're going to expect that. Then we get to the shootout, and I'm picking at Sheldon Keefe here because sometimes when you love somebody, they're the one you're the hardest on. Okay, so we go into overtime. He starts rightly with William Nylander.
Yep.
And then he goes, sorry, this is a shootout. Nylander, and then it goes Matthews,
Yep.
and then it goes Marner. Nylander, Matthews, convert. Marner goes next. So then the rules, if I interpreted them the right way, is that you can put out anybody. If you're tied after the third round of shootout,
No.
That's
You have to-
international.
so what
they can't come
what is the
back
rule?
out.
No one can come back out.
No, you get one go.
So if it goes through the entire team, you can't do anybody.
No.
Then yes.
So I bring this game up all the time, but because it's unprecedented. So I was at a 21 round shootout when I worked for the Mississauga Steelheads,
Okay.
and both
Oh,
goalies
jeez.
were standing on their brain. I think Spencer Martin.
Oh, yeah?
I think
Okay, that's
he
cool.
might have been the goalie for the Steelheads. Can't remember the other one. It was against London though. And shooter 18 goes for both teams, and they don't score. And everyone in the building goes, goalies? We wanted the goalies to go.
That would have been cool.
But like we're all sitting there like, who goes next?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was the first shooter.
Yeah, you're back up to the top. It's baseball lineup, you're back to one.
So the one thing we didn't, I think, get confirmation on is if once you have to go back through the lineup, are you allowed to change the order? If I remember that shootout correctly, they didn't. So they had shooters 1, 2, and 3 for both teams. And then shooters 19, 20, and 21 were shooters 1, 2, and 3.
So here's a question then.
Yeah.
When I go to a hockey game and I have to sit through a shootout, which I'm liking less and less, do I want to see a shootout goal from Justin Hall? Or do I want to see a shootout goal from the guy I own a jersey by, which is Matthews,
What if
Marner,
you own
and
a Hall
Nylander?
jersey?
Unless I'm his dad, I don't own a Hall jersey. And it's nothing against Justin Hall specifically in this instance, and nothing against Alex Kerfoot's goal. I saw a lot of people going, putting out like, this changes nothing. Like to me, like I'm happy, but I'm still mad at you. It's great that he scored, and that's awesome. But I didn't come here to see Alex Kerfoot. I didn't spend $300 on a Leafs ticket to see Alex Kerfoot take a shootout goal. I want
What
three
about
guys.
Bobby McMahon?
Bobby McMahon would have
shot.
been a good story.
Yeah.
And he almost got a couple, eh?
Yeah.
He was close.
Oh man, I really like that.
But
player.
I feel like you should be able to just roll your stars out there. That's my point. In the shootout.
After 3,
Yeah.
like go to
Don't
international
you think?
rules.
Or no? Am I wrong?
I think it's fine.
I think
Roll,
it's fine.
roll the stars, guys. We gotta build these guys up a little bit.
I think the biggest problem with the shootout is it's not overtime.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem I had with it.
CJ was talking about that last week. Did you guys catch that discussion?
Yeah.
The GM meetings thing?
Yeah.
Where they were looking at it going to 7 minutes. And
Just do it.
And well,
Just
but,
do it.
okay, so here's what'll happen though. If you do that, then teams are just gonna dead puck it. They're
No,
just
they're
gonna
not.
pass it around the back.
That's why they're only adding 2 minutes. Come on.
A lot of people forget that overtime, it used to be 5-on-5, and then it was 4-on-4, and
Yeah.
then it was 3-on-3. Like they've made edits to this, and it's only gotten better. So why wouldn't we continue to make edits and make it better?
Well, I'm cool with that, but what I think will motivate them, this 2 minutes isn't going to motivate you to play any harder. You have sudden death overtime. How about death overtime? As in, if it's a tie at the end of the fourth period, nobody gets a point.
No, they've already. Oh.
Now that would fire you the fuck up.
both teams
You
lose.
skated for 60 minutes and nobody gets a point. if you don't win overtime, you're going to try to win overtime.
That is a fascinating concept.
I'm not the one that came up with it, but I am going to pump those tires until it happens.
You know what? Worst case scenario happens just because you suggested it. So here's what's going to happen. The second wild card team is going to go up against the team beneath them. They're going to get the puck, and they're just going to do laps.
Yeah, but then here's the funny thing is then it'll go to like goals for or something. Like they'll both die and then it'll go to goals for.
Same amount of regulation wins and goals for, and it's going to be like, you ever seen those clips of like professional competitive tag? It's going to be that. It's going to be chasing them.
I don't think I've ever seen professional but competitive tag. Is it good?
Wild. Well, because it's basically like fast parkour.
Oh.
Against someone.
Okay.
Imagine doing parkour, but you're being chased by someone who's also good at parkour. Parkour. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
When
exactly
they were
what it was.
testing out the overtime rules to implement them in the NHL, the AHL actually went to 7 minutes for the 14-15 season.
Ooh.
They were 7 minutes 3-on-3, and the ECHL right now is 7 minutes 3-on-3. So there's like precedence in leagues right now and in the past. I want to see what those results are. And it's like, okay, do games end quicker? Like, we don't have to guess. There are actual real world professional hockey players who went on to graduate to the NHL who have played under these rules. So I don't know, just go sit and look at those GMs, and if it's better, then move to that.
Mm-hmm.
How many teams in the NHL, and I'm going to look this up right now.
Also, Adam, you saying the Leafs aren't good in shootouts? They've been in 3 shootouts.
But
And
they haven't been good in the last few years. I'm grading on a curve. From what I remember, they were not. It's not their greatest. It's not their strength.
So here's the good news about 3-on-3 overtime. And even better news for going to 7 minutes. How many teams in the NHL have played in 10 or more shootouts this season?
0. 10?
Jesse says 0. 10 or more shootouts.
0.
Jesse says 0.
10's a lot.
I don't know.
1.
There you
Really?
Yeah. I'll give you a clue. Jared Spurgeon is their captain.
The Lightning.
I don't believe I've heard of them. I don't know who that is.
The Minnesota Wild. So they've already done like a pretty good job of like eliminating this thing. I think 7 minutes just pushes the dagger. a
Look
little
at the
deeper.
Islanders. They've been absolutely royally fucked by the shootout.
Oh my God. Yeah, it could cost them their season. They're
Yeah.
0-5.
On a coin toss.
Ooh, that's
event. That's
that
not
sucks.
great. That's
That
5 full
sucks.
points.
They're oh man. The Kraken are 0-3. That could be costly. The Oilers are 0-4. So all 3 of those teams that are in like pretty heated playoff battles have not won a shootout game. That's kind of wild. Yeah, the Islanders are the top wild card in the East. The Oilers are they're in a divisional playoff spot in the Pacific. And then the Kraken though are in the top wild card spot in the West.
That Oilers one is so weird.
Why?
0-4? The Oilers?
They should. They should dominate.
I know.
You think having McDavid
Well,
and
it just goes to
Draisaitl and
show it's all
Hyman and
bullshit.
Kane. Yeah, like
Yeah, it's not really indicative of skill in the game.
no.
What was it? Who was the shootout master? Was it UC Jokinen?
UC Jokinen.
Yeah.
I was thinking like, man, Leafs should just sign him so they can win all their shootouts. It'd be worth like 10 points.
Datsuk was unreal.
Yeah.
Oshie
was.
because of the Olympics. That was unreal.
Yeah, but Datsuk was a first liner. This is Jokinen was one of like there might be like 3 dudes ever who were like designated 8-minute a night 4th line skill guys.
Mhm.
Like who,
Couldn't he could kill penalties too, right? Wasn't that
UC
his-
Jokinen? I can't remember. Wasn't he? Was he a Leaf for a cup of coffee? I know Olli Jokinen was.
Yeah, not UC.
I don't know if UC was.
Yeah, I wanted UC. Oli was past Oli's prime when he was a Leaf thing. So I guess in summation, good weekend for the Leafs.
Yeah.
I think the Leaf fans that continue to downplay the Ottawa Senators. Listen, I'm going to be the first one on this show to say they suck and they're not going to make the playoffs this year. But that's a really good team. They always, no matter how shitty they are, they played the Leafs well. And it's hockey night in Canada in their building on a Saturday night. Don't tell me that's not an important matchup for both teams.
Huge
Don't tell me
matchup.
that.
Huge
Bullshit.
matchup for both teams. And I tell you what, the Sens decor looked so garbage at the beginning of the season.
Well, look okay now.
Jacob Chikrin really ties that room together.
I thought when Jacob Chikrin's in their lineup, I'm like, is that what they need?
Why?
I thought they need somebody who's a little better on the defensive end. I think defense was something they've struggled with all season, and I think is their downfall right now because they're so fast and they can score and they can get the shots on goal like you demonstrated. Do you maybe needed somebody who's more reliant on the defensive end than Jacob Chikrin?
You need talent. They didn't have talent. So they have talent. Now I look at that left side. Shabbat, Chikrin, Jake Sanderson. So tell you what, get a dude who does that on the right. That's kind of how Tampa won the cup in the bubble. You looked at their left side and you're like, Jesus. Like Victor Hedman, Ryan McDonough, Mikhail Sergachev. Outrageous. And who was their right side? It was like a banged up Eric Cernak who didn't even play all the games. Luke Shen, Zach Bogosian.
Yep.
I think Jan Ruda was injured, so I don't know if he even played.
He got into we talked about it on Asia Provocateur. He got into a couple of games, but he was scratched for a little bit of it. Yeah.
Right. And like Cernak, this was like we really knew how good he was, Cernak. Right. So it was this crazy left side and just sort of piecemeal on the right side. So I think the Sens can build something like that. They got a real good left side.
Fun. And their captain, Jared Spurgeon.
That's right.
Shut up.
The captain of us all.
Yeah.
Really?
He's the captain of 31 NHL teams, but not the Minnesota
Not
Wild.
the Minnesota Wild. No, they're
Captain of the Devils. Captain of the Bruins.
Something I want to talk about coming up here is the Philadelphia Flyers and the under the radar drama that you might have missed. I am blown away by this story. It has to do with what happened when Chuck was fired and Daniel Briere was hired. Not what has to do with Daniel Briere's son this time.
Yeah.
The Flyers sound like they're an absolute mess at the top. They're definitely a mess on the bottom, but it sounds like the mess on the bottom, surprise, surprise, may have started at the top. And I cannot wait to get into this story with you guys. But first, we got to have Dave on, who is back from Punta Cana.
You can Dave that.
You can bet that with David Bastel. Brought to you by Sports Interaction. Get in the action and make a play. 19 plus. Please play responsibly.
Dave is back from Punta Cana. Dave, how was the vacation?
Fantastic. Plus 30 temperatures every single night, even when I was watching the Jets struggle away on the other side of the world. So
yeah, it was a rough week for the Jets. But you know what? They missed you in town. I think that's what it was.
I think that's probably what it was. I think you're right.
Also, I love it when Dave says the temperature because it sounds like it's an odd. Plus 30. You know, I felt like Dave that you're right back into this. Now we got the Islanders. Thank you. I know it took a little bit for everybody to get that. The Islanders play the Leafs tomorrow night as of this recording on the 21st. Got a lot of former friends on the Islanders. Steve, name them all right now. Go.
Matt Martin, Pierre Engvall, and that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Oh yeah, that's true. And then one more. John Tavares counts as a former friend. Right, Dave?
That's right. Hey, you're on.
So what do we got here for these? Because obviously you got Pierre and Matt to score a goal, and the Matt Martin odds are pretty good, 650 to 1. But I want to talk about the Tavares prop on this one because this is a good one.
Yep. Fire away. You have those numbers, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So to score 2 or more points versus the Islanders, it's a yes at 2.37.
Oh.
Would you take it? Two or more.
Why not?
Has he played well against the Islanders, though?
Yes.
Okay.
He has, actually.
Except for that one game.
The first game, and maybe the second, I can't remember, was really bad. And that's sort of colored our perception strangely, but the Leafs have actually done really well against the Islanders in the Tavares as a Leaf era.
We also got an Ontario-born Josh Bailey from Durham region, out near Steve.
Yes.
Played for the Jennies.
That's right. Now he is a 5-1 to score against the Leafs.
Oh, dear.
Do you take it?
I mean, I don't take it out of principle, but if I did, I'd probably win money.
Yeah. And Dave, the last one, and this one I think is specifically for Jesse, but you go ahead. We love Willie. What is it? What do we got?
Yeah. So, well, you know what? At the beginning of the year, Jess threw it down, so we accepted, and now it's kind of gotten a little interesting. So, William Nylander, 35 goals, Austin Matthews, 32 goals, and the bet was Willie lead the team in goal scoring. Right now, yes, is a 134, but I'm kind of looking at the no right now because it's 3-1. No, does
I already took the
does
no.
Austin Matthews turn it up? Because he's starting to.
The answer is no, he will not, because Willie's just going to keep up his pace. This is a 40-goal season for William Nylander, and Austin Matthews, because of his injuries and everything that's been nagging him, and
He might only get 40.
he's gonna lag a little behind.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
a yes. I'm
He's
sticking
got
on that.
himself into this conversation, though, right?
Sure, it doesn't mean he's gonna win.
You see how defensive he is? He's
Hey,
not happy about this.
Big time. I know.
I
How
don't know
about
why
this
we
one?
brought this up.
How about this one? A suggestion: 40 goals, both Willie, Austin, or neither of them. I want that one. I want the odds.
I'll take that back. Okay.
That's an
I'll tell you
interesting one.
Yeah.
I'll take
Double
that back
40.
to my group and we'll present later on this week.
All right.
Yeah,
Let's do that.
yeah.
That's
The
amazing.
40 goal club.
Yeah.
I'll take the
There you go.
double 40 on that. Thank you.
Dave, we know you're fighting a cold, but we do really appreciate making the appearance because we missed you last week, sir. But we're glad you enjoyed the vacation. I'm sorry about the Jets, but happy for the New York Jets because it looks like Aaron Rodgers is going to go there.
Welcome number 12. Bring on the pain.
You don't want that.
Yes, he does.
You don't
yes,
want
he
that.
does. It can't be worse than what they've had.
It's true. And we've had nothing.
So this Flyers story I've been fascinated with, and I'm going to shout out Flyers Nation on Twitter. So Marcus Hayes of the Philadelphia Inquirer reported today, which was last Friday, that Dave Scott, who's the prez,
Brother of Michael.
that's right, didn't consult Bob Clark, Paul Holmgren, or Bill Barber before last week's event, and last week's event would be firing Chuck Fletcher. All three of them would not have approved of firing Fletcher or promoting Daniel Briere. Dave Scott knew this, so he didn't ask. Danny Briere was, quote, always an interloper, despite following Chuck around for the past year. All four of them did not comment on the article. So the reason that I find this fascinating is because of a snippet from 32 Thoughts from the other week where Elliot Friedman said what the Flyers would do is they would agree on a thing as a group. So let's say I've got an idea and Jesse and Steve go, great, that sounds awesome. Then Jesse and Steve go and text all the other people that they know around the league and go, we're about to do this and it sucks and I can't believe we agreed to do this.
Right.
Mhm.
So I'm glad you pointed that out because that was the first thing I thought of immediately. So there's people in your organization who don't like the decisions that are going on
Mm-hmm.
and they're telling people about it,
Mm-hmm.
distancing themselves from the decisions that you're making for the organization. And then you fire Chuck Fletcher and that information that they didn't know gets out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got some guys to fire there, Dave.
Well, so according to Marcus' article, the sports wing of parent company Comcast Spectator had a chance to ignore the three wise men, Bob Clark, Paul Holmgren, and Bill Barber, all former players and front office executives now ensconced as, quote, senior advisors. All those guys, I believe, have been general managers of the Flyers, along with latecomer Dean Lombardi. CEO Dave Scott had a chance to fire Chuck Fletcher and promote someone from outside the organization. This is how Marcus writes it. CEO Dave Scott had the chance to fire general manager Chuck Fletcher and promote someone from outside the Flyers' inbred bloodlines. Ideally,
Jesus.
someone who would deviate from the incestuous progressions that ruined a once proud hockey club. As it turns out, Scott did just that. Scott fired Fletcher on his own, according to two league sources. Then he named Danny Briere interim general manager, again, on his own. Briere is expected to have an interim tag removed at the end of the season, according to a league source. But wait, Briere wore the orange and black, right? So same old, same old. Wrong. Briere might be a former Flyer, but he's close to Holmgren, but he is no golden child of these three wise men. In 2017, Holmgren sent him to run the Spectators ECHL team in Maine, but it was Valerie Camillo, president of Spectators Sports Wing, who in 2020 sent Briere to Wharton School of Finance at the University of Pennsylvania, which is something of a GM factory. Briere has spent the last year or so tailing Fletcher, but he was always, quote, an interloper. So it sounds to me like there's a couple of things happening here. You've got somebody in ownership, somebody at Comcast, who must believe that Bob Clark, Paul Holmgren, and Bill Barber, along with, I guess, Dean Lombardi, serve a valuable purpose. Then you have a CEO who reports directly to ownership who does not.
Oh. So if someone with Comcast really values the three of their opinion, Bob Clark, Paul Holmgren, and sorry, who was the third?
Lombardi.
Bill Barber.
Oh, Bill Barber.
Lombardi is the new, but he never played for them. That's why they call Bill Barber
Sure.
dead, right?
He's
Sure.
Shemp.
Yeah.
He's Shemp. So there's Curly, Larry, and Mo.
Yeah.
And Dean Lombardi is Shemp.
Right.
And so shouldn't that person at Comcast be furious?
It sounds like Dave Scott's fed up and he's finally doing what's right.
Well, it seems like that is his job, right?
Yeah.
It is his job, and
That's a lot of cooks in that kitchen.
it is.
Yeah, somebody needs to make a decision. It sounds like Dave Scott's just like, okay, I'm fed up with this. This organization's clearly not going the correct direction. Let me make some decisions here.
Yeah, what's that saying? Paralysis through analysis?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. It sounded like a dude who had authority to do his job did his job.
Did it?
And like, you shouldn't ignore the other people in your organization, and you also you don't want a collection of yes men. I don't
If you're a consultant, though, and so it's a consultant's relationship to the CEO or an executive consultant is if the CEO needs your counsel, he'll come to you.
Yeah, he didn't need it. So, like, Dave Scott's like, hey, I want to fire Chuck Fletcher, and I have the power to, so I'm going to do it. So, pat on the back for him.
I had a great conversation. Hey, me, do you want to fire Chuck? Yes, me, I think you should. And that's what he ended up doing.
So let me ask you this, though. The three wise men. What does this remind you of?
Christmas.
Does this not stink
No.
of 2012, 2013, 2014 Toronto Maple Leafs?
I
Claude Lozelle,
those teams.
Dave Poulin,
Yeah.
Dave Nonis, and nothing against any of them personally, but there was a lot of former players. We should go get this guy going on.
There were those teams drove me to drink on camera. This feels worse. What's going on in Philly?
Well,
I'm not saying the team is in a worse position because I don't think they are.
it's the Leaf equivalent of Doug Gilmour, Matt Sundin, and Daryl Sittler saying, like, literally, being like, we're in charge now.
It reminds me a little of the kind of early days of McDavid Oilers without McDavid.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not great, man. It's not great. Or maybe the pre-McDavid Oilers
Mm-hmm.
without all the first overall picks not working. All of them.
This is what Marcus goes on to say. He said, there's no way the Flyers will unceremoniously defrock their most respected elders. I love the way this guy writes.
Rock.
But they have stopped listening to them, finally. And then Briere told 97.5 The Fanatic, home of chicken shit and the broom, it's not the Broad Street bullies from the 70s and 80s. Briere watched dismayed as Fletcher and the wise men kept grasping at straws as the barn burned down. That's him paraphrasing in there. And then Briere said, we were trying to do some patchwork instead of facing the truth.
Woo.
I just want to know what show he went on. Did he go on Cousin Tunis?
I don't
Or did he go on
Can't
the
believe
Anthony
that's a real
Gargano
name.
show?
All we know is it's 97.5
That's
The
the
Fanatic.
station. That's
Is it?
where we have beef with, yeah.
Gaba and the Ghoul.
I have no idea.
I gotta listen to Cousin Tunis on the podcast today on my way home, as I do every day. Never miss an episode.
What's that guy's name that called in again?
Cameron.
He called into the Anthony Gargano show.
Cameron, where are you? Why have you never reached out?
Cameron, we want you to come on the show to tell us what you think the Flyers should do.
I actually do want to know.
Phones are open. Let's go.
It's
Open phone.
Marcus ends the article with, even heroes have their flaws. Even heroes fade away.
Damn.
This is going to be a very interesting summer for the Flyers. I wonder, though, because you would think Tortorella's safe, but with a new GM in and a completely different view on, like, is John Tortorella known for developing young talent? Not really. And they're going to have a lot of young talent in the next 3 years.
I guess I don't understand John Tortorella's role in all this because it always felt like a little Glengarry Glen Ross, like he's there on a mission of mercy. It never really felt like he was the long-term guy there.
Mm-hmm.
I am kind of tired of hearing about his philosophies on his little pulpit, but like I'm interested to see what Tortorella could do with a Flyers team that's any good.
I think it's going to be a very similar situation to Yzerman in Detroit, where Jeff Blashill was there for all those years, and then when he's like, okay, let's get to
Who
win
got a
in
worse
here.
deal than him?
You know, I'm going to bring in Derek Lalonde. I'm going to get a guy who I want. And I feel like Daniel Briere is going to be there for a number of years with John Tortorella. And then when it's time, he's going to go get a head coach that he actually wants. But John Tortorella is a great holding position right now, just as how Jeff Blashill was, unfortunately. And eventually he's going to be fired and he's going to bring in the guy he wants.
It's Tortorella was there to sort of weed through, again, to compare it to the Leafs. There was 15-16 where it was all about finishing last, but then there was 14-15, which was all about figuring out who needs to go, who's got to go, who can and can't do this. And the answer was the vast majority of the team. But it's actually kind of wild, like when you think back to that 16-17 year with the Leafs, how many guys from those horrible years with the Leafs stuck around. Bozak was a part of that team. Scored an overtime winner. JVR was there. It's whatever.
It was a big one. It was against Washington.
More playoff OT winners than most guys.
No, you just
the
said
one time.
he scored an overtime winner, just not specifying. Like, was it an important one?
Jesse, you're right.
So was it game 56?
In the playoffs, and I assume everyone has my memory for random goals.
Okay. Bozak scored once.
He did.
Yeah.
It was a big silly.
Yeah.
It was a great silly. There's a picture.
I think that playoff run was very important. Like, hopefully the Flyers get something like that in their rebuild stage.
They have a fascinating draft. Oh, and this is the other thing too. Why it's important to get a guy like Danny Briere. Because I just corrected myself mid-thought. I was going to say they now have to do work at the draft because Cliff Fletcher wasn't able to get anything done at the trade deadline.
Chuck,
yeah.
Sorry, Chuck
Cliff's
Fletcher.
Toronto.
My
Yeah.
bad. Chuck Fletcher wasn't able to do anything at the trade deadline, so now he has to do all his work at the draft, which he sort of hinted at. Danny Briere said no such thing. So it might be a good idea to do lots of business at the draft, but he doesn't have to. Does that make sense?
He doesn't have to do anything.
He doesn't have to force himself to make any decision he doesn't want or to get a 4th round pick for someone he was hoping to get a second for.
He is going to have to figure out, like looking at their contract situation. Obviously, Van Riemsdyk comes off the books.
You guys talking to Mike?
Oh, sorry. Van Riemsdyk comes off the books. Lemieux comes off the books. They just got him. Justin Braun is, getting, who knows if he's going to even play next year, although he's been very good this year. You got to figure out how to dump some of these contracts. Like, you got to find the general manager who is out of it enough to take a Rasmus Ristolainen contract.
I think you can salvage D'Angelo. I don't
think you can salvage Risto.
No, like D'Angelo, at very least, you understand what type of a player he is, and he is that.
Yeah.
Ristolainen used to be that. Horrible defensively, but he would put up a shitload of points. He doesn't even do that anymore.
Yeah, he's just a guy.
Yeah.
And then you got Travis Sanheim, who's due quite a big raise, and I believe his contract ends in 2030, 2031.
Yeah.
And your coach is benching him.
I don't understand how trading Travis Konechny, who fits your team perfectly, makes you better.
I'm not sure that Travis Konechny is going to get traded now. I think that was a Chuck Fletcher thing. I don't know that. I think that any rumor you heard about the Flyers is now null and void.
Well,
the rumors starting now are the rumors you want to listen to.
If you're the Philadelphia Flyers, you go into every draft looking for a player like Travis Konechny. So
yes,
I don't think trading him makes.
He's still
sense.
young, and then I think a lot of those rumors that if Marcus is to be believed, if Elliot Friedman and those guys are to be believed, and I believe them, it sounds like a lot of the leakiness from the head office came from the 3 or 4 wise men. Or the what is it, the Enchem?
The Three Stooges. I'm not calling them the Three Stooges, but Curly, Larry, and Moe and Shemp.
Yeah, it's a interesting thing that I wonder if this is the time that they're on the way out, and also I wonder if the CEO was doing that because he wanted to see where the leaks were coming from. If he doesn't tell anyone,
Maybe.
you know what I mean? Like that, I feel like that would have leaked.
It's like those things that IT departments do where they put like a different period on everybody's
Yes.
emails to see who leaked it to the media or whatever. Yeah.
Here, let me do it less insulting. The Three Musketeers and D'Artagnan.
There you go.
I like
Is
that.
Cam York Jason York's kid?
I think so.
Yeah.
That's
I think-
cool. If it is,
I think he also has more than one kid.
Oh, one of his kids.
Yeah, I'm
Is
not.
it? Oh.
I'm not actually sure. I think
Okay.
so.
Yeah. The second question, is Ryan Ellis going to finish with 4 career games as a Philadelphia Flyer?
Basically hasn't played hockey for 2 years.
Yeah. That's
Probably.
what a shame. That deal was.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And like, listen, shit didn't work out there. We've been through that. It sounds like Sean Couturier is going to come back.
It does. Yeah,
That's
that's
cool.
promising.
That's extremely promising, and can't act like that doesn't make a big difference to the team.
But like only 32. It's a shame that his career looks to be over.
Wait, who?
Ryan Ellis.
Oh my god, that's a dude I covered in junior, and he's 32 and potentially retiring.
and was spectacular when he was at his best.
He was
Those
unreal.
natural years.
Especially that Stanley Cup run they had. That defense
Yeah.
was crazy. Yossi, Ekholm, Subban, Ellis. Like, wow.
Oh, you're forgetting the most important part.
Who's that?
He won Memorial Cups with someone we went to high school with as his D partner,
Who's that?
Rob Quitt.
Oh, really?
Rob Quitt was Ryan Ellis's D
Well,
partner.
there you go. That's something for me and Steve and no one else.
And no one else.
But we went to school with
No,
Rob, and Rob was a
also
really nice guy.
fans of the Providence Bruins. Trying to think of the other teams he played for.
Is he still playing?
No, he retired.
No.
I think he played in Austria.
Any career NHL games?
No, unfortunately not. I don't think he ever signed an NHL contract, but he played professional hockey.
That guy.
AHL, he's a Providence Bruins.
Yeah, a little bit in the AHL,
That's
a
cool.
lot of ECHL, and a little bit of Europe.
That's so close.
He had man hands in like grade 9.
Lindros hands?
He had Lindros hands. By the way, the Lindros interview, when you shake Eric's hand, your hand disappears in Eric's hand. Rob, this guy we grew up with. Anybody that you might sort of know that made it anywhere in hockey, they're gigantic. Or at least in our generation, they were. Wayne was the only one who was tall and extremely athletic, but not like just a huge man. You know?
He played in the IHL, the AHL, the ECHL.
What's his last name?
Quit, but it's spelled Kwiet. It's spelled quiet.
Rob Quitt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll bring it up.
quiet. He was a big dude.
Nice guy.
He was a nice guy.
Yeah, it was really nice. It was cool. What?
I'm just, I don't know. It's just super relevant.
He was.
It's important. It's important to mention that shit. You have to.
Yeah.
One time he like walked with me for the first bit of my walk home because these guys came up to me. I had this Walkman. I've talked about this Walkman before. That it was like $300 because that's how much they cost at the time. Panasonic Walkman with headphones that vibrated.
Oh, cool.
And these two dudes came up to me. They're like, how much was that? Or where'd you get that? And I go, it was $300. They have them at Best Buy, I think. And the guy goes, what makes you think I want to buy it?
Oh, shit.
And I'm like, oh, fuck. This guy wants to like mug me. Right. So, but it was like broad daylight. There were lots of people around. So like, it was fine. So I was like, okay, who's my biggest friend? I was
So you talked to Rob?
yeah, so I talked to Rob. This is in like grade 9, and I'm like, Rob, can you just walk with me for a bit?
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, oh, they're not gonna fuck with me if Rob's here.
Yeah. Amazing.
I highly doubt Rob remembers
Amazing.
that story. He was cool.
Okay, did you see?
Didn't see a lot of him after he made the OHL.
I meant to bring this up earlier. The Senators sale looks like it's going to be between $900 and $950 million.
That's
I think Eugene bought it. I'm going to look it up, but I think it was between $150 and $2 million. Eugene Melnick,
for like an Amazon gift card.
Senators.
I want to say it was $250.
Purchase. Maybe it was $250. $92 million.
wow.
$92 million. And so as of last year, the Senators, according to Sportico, I believe, Sportico, were listed at $655 million. Now they're going to go for sale. The bids are in. And I guess Elliot Friedman said there was a bidding process. and it was non-binding, but there were people in the 920s and there were people in the 850s. And basically what the people in the 850s are being told is, you better raise your bid or you're out.
So here's what I was wondering, and I didn't hear anybody talk about. Ryan
Reynolds.
Thank you, Ryan Reynolds. I was thinking Gosling. There's lots of Canadian Ryans. Ryan
Tedder.
Reynolds. Yes.
Is not Canadian.
Name some others.
No, he's not.
Ryan Tedder is not Canadian.
Ah, my
He is
bad.
now.
He's ours now. He's ours now.
Ryan Reynolds selling Mint Mobile and getting a shitload of money for it. Does that have to do with him acquiring capital for part of this deal?
He's not putting any money into this.
So that was
Right.
the contentious part of the group he was joining because he didn't want to put in any kind of money. He just wanted to put in his celebrity power.
Okay.
And so he'll get like 5%.
He had the sort of money you need to buy Wrexham, a tier 5 Welsh team in soccer. But then when it was like, oh yeah, he's running to get the Sens, I'm like, I don't think you are.
Yeah, Wrexham cost them to buy $2.5 million.
Are you joking me?
Yeah.
Pounds?
2.5 million,
US.
2 million pounds, 2 million
Pounds.
2.5 million US dollars. And now they've put probably that or more into it, but they have clearly the money to do it. So, and then the sponsorships and all that stuff, you go up.
So for what he got for Deadpool, he could buy like 8 Wrexhams.
Yeah, 100%.
Holy
You know
shit.
what's wild about that too is they also bought the stadium. So I'm gonna have to say, what did the race course cost? What did the race? Because they call it the race course. Wrexham.
It couldn't have been. I wonder if it was more than the team. Surely it was more than the team. I'm going to say 15 million pounds.
Because somebody else owned it, and they were trying to redevelop it and make it into like a freaking
Complex?
into like a neighborhood. They were gonna.
Oh, nice.
And the stadium is the oldest professional stadium, or like the third oldest in the world, or something. Yeah, they call it the race course because it used to be a horse racing course, and then in the early, like last century, like 1900, they banned horse racing. So they're like, hey, can we play soccer here instead? And that's why they play there. You got to watch that thing. It looks like, yeah. So technically it's a lease, but it looks as though, I don't even know how to. British law is ridiculous when it comes to this stuff. And it took them like months and months and months to be able to do it. But Wrexham Football Club does own that as well. So,
Ooh, did they have to wear a very silly wig while writing that law?
No, I don't play. I bet they did actually.
Yeah.
I bet they did. Yeah, because in British courts you got to wear silly wigs.
That's just, it's so ridiculous to me that it's like the most serious moment in someone's life. And they're like, you're going to go to prison for the next 30 years. And they look like the Quaker Oats person.
Yeah, it's kind of true. It's a little weird.
It's how doesn't everyone go like
know.
in the middle of that?
Yeah, I don't know.
You look.
Have you
silly.
seen that show, by the way? Welcome to Wrexham.
A few episodes.
Man, okay. There's a couple episodes that are clearly filler, but it's so good. And one of the things is that one of the grandstands is completely empty because it's been condemned, and they're still playing on it. But it has those old. You know how they used to stand up at soccer games? That was
sure.
In the 70s.
Yeah, and they would have the bar.
70s and 80s, they'd have a bar that you would standing at. But they realized that if you're drinking and standing, you're far more likely to start a fight than sitting and not drinking. So they don't let you, in most stadiums, I think they're not letting you buy beer, and they make you sit down. And then obviously a lot of people are standing anyway. But isn't that crazy? They put in seats just to stop the fighting. That was one of the measures to stop the fighting.
They have a lot of measures in place to stop the fighting. There was a chain link fence at the game in Aberdeen I went to.
Oh, I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all.
Keeping the visiting section separate.
Yes,
My
Jeff.
bet for the Ottawa Senators that they narrow in on $1 billion when they come to close on the deal.
Because there'll probably be a couple people that are.
Yeah, like right now
bidding each other
they're
up.
still in the process where, hey, we'll take your things, and if you want to raise your bid, I think they get into a little bit of bidding war. It sounds like there's so much interest in it, and the group that Ryan Reynolds is a part of, the Remington Group. Yeah, the Remington Group. They're a real estate development group too. So they want that land just to like build condos and stuff on it. So it's not even like a buying a hockey team kind of thing. It's a we want to buy real estate. We want to buy a hockey team so that we can put somewhere so we can get real estate.
Yeah, and we can do the LeBreton Flats deal and the Corral, the old
There's
Corral,
no other
Canadian
model.
Tire Center.
No, there's no other model. Like that's what it is now.
So, but some of these groups are just like hockey or tech investors or whatever. There's a Montreal Canadiens minority owner. He's also in this, you know, like there's people who just want to invest in the hockey team. Plus they'll get the arena and all that stuff. But there's like, this is a specific condo real estate. We build shit. We get land group.
Well, isn't that
who
what the
wants to
Leafs
buy this
did?
team.
Like that building is on top of Real Sports, basically.
Yeah.
So that's what they did. I think that's what Tempe's aiming to do. That's what happened in Edmonton.
It's the model.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, I don't think it's going to happen in Ottawa, but you can get, I think Detroit's got, the Illich family and whoever their investors are got Detroit to agree to like a special tax zone. So anything within that zone is either taxed differently or not at all.
Well, and that building's a
that's not
spaceship.
good.
No, it's not good. No,
I don't like
you,
that stuff.
If you're from the real estate company's perspective, you're like, whoa, this is great. To everybody else, it kind of sucks. But downtown Detroit needed a revamp. They were bankrupt, so they needed a plan, and that's how they were able to attract the investment. Now, Ottawa's not in that same spot, but I'm curious about what happens, because you guys have been there, right? Have you seen a game in Ottawa?
No.
Oh, I thought you meant Detroit.
I've been to downtown Ottawa and never out to the arena.
I've been to.
Isn't that sad, by the way? I've been in downtown Ottawa, but I've never been all the way out there where the arena is.
Yeah.
I've been to at least one NHL game there, and I've been to the Clarkson Cup.
Oh, I went to did the red carpet for the Junos there and stayed at the hotel down the street. And then I've seen a couple of Sens games there, and it's like I remember a few years ago when the Sens were in like the Eastern Conference Finals and they weren't selling it out.
Yeah.
And we were asking people, and it was like the Phoenix Pay system and just what a pain in the ass it is to get out there on public transit. So I hope whatever this is, it puts them in the middle of the city, and then
It will. That's why the team's worth so much, because I think they look at it and they're like, well, if this was designed with any common sense at all, it could be very lucrative. Ottawa's a big and growing city by Canadian standards.
yeah.
It'll do really, really well.
And it's rare you get an NHL franchise up for sale. Like this doesn't happen
That
every
too.
now and again. The Pittsburgh Penguins sold. They're the most recent team to sell. They sold for $900 million to the Fenway Sports Group in 2021. So I just imagine 2 years later, you know, inflation, all that, sports teams are worth kind of a little bit more at $100 million. It's going to narrow in on like 980, $1 billion.
What was the last Canadian team to be sold?
Oh God,
Was it
That's
the
a really
Jets?
good question.
it would have been
The Jets move.
moving the Jets to Winnipeg.
And before that, would it not have been the Gillette family selling to? Didn't the Gillettes own Montreal Canadiens for a while? They owned Manchester
the
United.
Leafs deal didn't happen before or after that one.
When the Leafs sold,
You know,
but
that was,
so here's the question
that
with
was
the Leafs
within
deal.
like 20 years.
Do you count the Rogers and Bell purchase of the teachers' pension plan because Larry Tannenbaum is the owner? He's the controlling owner.
Is he the
Yes.
majority owner?
He's not. I believe he's 37.5%,
The Rogers Bell, because they bought a quarter each, didn't they?
something like that. Yeah, some bizarre.
I'd count that. And that was like what?
But Larry's always
2011?
considered the owner, though. He is the majority owner. So does that count? I don't know.
I'm not rich enough to know the answer to any of these questions.
Fair enough.
Like, what is the? I'm not in the tax bracket. Like, some people are so rich they don't have to pay taxes, and I have a really difficult time wrapping my head around that.
Telecom giants Rogers and Bell on Friday agreed to buy a controlling 75% stake in MLSE,
75.
owner of the Toronto Maple Leafs NHL franchise, in a $1.32 billion deal. That is a fucking discount.
Wow, did they ever get a steal?
Holy crap.
Holy shit.
Ontario Teachers Pensions Plan, Canada's third largest pension fund with $107.5 billion net assets, is selling 75% stake in the company, which also owns NBA basketball franchise, Toronto Maple Leafs, Toronto FC. Minority investor and current chairman Larry Tannenbaum will increase his stake in the company to 25%.
Oh, that's what it was.
From
Okay.
20. So they own 75%
I was devastated.
combined.
Why?
Well, I was at CBC when this news broke,
No,
that's different.
I'm thinking of when Rogers bought the deal.
No.
bought the
Yeah,
NHL.
yeah.
I was devastated because I was at CBC at the time, and I'm like, cool, I'm going to lose my job.
Yeah, well, look at you going to work for Sportsnet.
I was like, I'm going to lose my job, and Sportsnet's not going to hire me, and then they hired me.
I think that, and I think people forget this, is that like there's a sports blog that exists to this day called the Pension Plan Puppets.
Yeah,
it was a much different Toronto Maple Leafs ethos on the executive side when the pension plan owned it. They just wanted to capitalize on the investment. They did not care if the team won or lost, and the results were on the ice. But Rogers and Bell understand that, like when the Blue Jays had their deep runs in 15 and 16, Rogers stock hit like its all-time high because it's good for your company. And so what they understand and realize is that, okay, the more sports stadiums we purchase the naming rights on, and the more teams that we buy and make competitive, which is why the Blue Jays are spending a fortune now when they didn't used to, is it really boosts it. You know, the what is it? The rising tide floats all boats.
Yeah, the Blue Jays have never made as much money as when they went on those runs.
That's right.
Like they make more money when they're really good and they spend a lot of money on the team.
And that's exactly what's happened. And that's why, so the Rogers and Bell purchase, I know it's crazy, right? Oh my God. But that's why it's good to sometimes it is good to have an owner that has television rights and other things like digital rights and all those things to worry about, because you need the team to be good for you to capitalize on the media side of it.
No, the best way is you have a crazy billionaire who only does sports, and this is his plaything, like a Jerry Jones situation. And he's like, I'm gonna they're gonna win or I'm gonna die.
Jerry Jones does spend some money though, man. Yeah. I'll give him credit. That stadium was $4 billion.
What do you mean I gotta run my team? I'm on tour with my dad, man.
No, that's the guy from Madison Square, right?
James Dolan.
James Dolan. That's right.
Yeah. So to answer your question, the most recent team to sell in Canada, I would say, is the Leafs in 2011.
Yeah, that works.
You know?
That was 12 years ago.
And then the Jets too, right around then too. Were they not?
So let's say Leafs and Jets tie.
Okay.
I guess was the Jets after that?
I think the Jets were 2011.
I guess it was the next year.
Same year? Yeah.
And Mark Chipman and Mark Thompson were the ones that purchased that, and they're still the owners today. Boy, they've made some good money there
Just
too.
to emphasize that this rarely happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
It's interesting.
2011, 2012, first season of the
there you
Jets.
go.
There you go. Yeah.
Nick Antropov, Winnipeg Jets.
Did Ponikarovsky not play there too? And Kyle Wellwood?
Wellwood did for sure. I don't remember Ponikarovsky. Tim Stapleton. Lots of Leaf greats.
Hey,
The Jets have great owners.
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's fantastic. That's a group and people in a family you want owning a sports franchise.
Yes.
If you're a fan, like they're a model franchise.
The thing that the Jets do get too on the other side of it, that I think a lot of smaller market teams, and that's not an offensive thing. The Jets are a smaller market team. The Jets are in the community. They are of the community, and a lot of teams are like, no, we don't need to do that. We're the team. You come to us. The Jets go to you. The Jets are a part of the fabric of Winnipeg. And I think I'm blown away by just sort of the little community initiatives that they do all the time. They'll never get the spotlight that they deserve. But like if I was all of a sudden, boom, owner of the Arizona Coyotes, I'd be going, who do I hire from the Jets to do this here?
Well, it's because they put the NHL put that entire city in a Helen Hunt situation.
Which is what?
Well, she was married to Tom Hanks in Castaway. And then he got lost for many years.
Right.
And then he came back.
Right.
But she had started this whole new life with someone else. And then he shows up at her door. What is she supposed to do? Just drop the life that she's made? And I always think of my buddy Tom from Winnipeg, who had to become a Penguins fan.
Oh, because they left.
Yeah.
For a while.
And then the Jets came back, and it was like, we thought you were dead. And so they have to basically ruin my friend Tom's marriage with the Penguins.
He went from Crosby to Scheifele.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Not bad.
It's not great, but it's not bad.
Damn, Adam.
Also, the Coyotes looking at the Jets is
that's funny.
That's them looking at their own history, right?
I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Wow, that's a good point.
Yeah, sorry. My buddy Tom used to be a big Coyotes fan.
There you go.
And then he cheered for the Penguins. Now he cheers for the Jets, is what I meant to say. That's not stupid at all.
Who's the captain of the Winnipeg Jets?
No one.
Nice.
Athletic
Jared
reporter Arpin Basu on Twitter
Should have said Jared Spurgeon.
talking about Friday. Jonathan Drouin was 2 minutes late for a team meeting Friday morning. Fully accepted the consequences. Marty St. Louis said he was great on the bench and handled the whole situation well. And I don't know if you saw this, but Jonathan Drouin became the first person since, I believe, Sam Reinhart with the Sabres to sit an entire game. 0-0-0 on the minutes for being late to something. Apparently, Marty St. Louis was quite complimentary of Drouin and the way he took it after the game. Drouin took full responsibility for it and said, listen, it's a rule. It doesn't matter if you're a little late or a lot late. You're late, you're late. Now, with the Montreal Canadiens, they don't have anything to lose. They've had a good year. They got some swagger, although they've been falling off a little bit lately.
Wow.
And then, I mean, like, listen,
Everyone's been shut down.
Injuries and all that stuff. And of course you're shutting them down because why would you play them this year?
They can't win another game. Like,
They
the Montreal
shouldn't.
Canadiens need to get to the bottom, and
They
they're
need
doing
to
it good right now.
They have a real opportunity here.
Yeah.
Like, all the shitty teams are winning.
Yeah, they're 1-7-2. They're doing it right. Like,
Yeah.
keep losing.
Go.
Yeah,
So you got nothing to lose, so you bench Jonathan Drouin.
exactly.
And I know that Jonathan Drouin is perhaps not playing the role on this team that he was first envisioned when he signed that contract.
He hasn't scored a goal.
Exactly.
Good
But-
playmaker.
Yeah,
Hasn't
but
scored a goal.
You're bad and showing up late. Like,
Oh boy.
that's the calls for a benching.
well, I wondered how does let's say it's this exact situation, same player, same coach, same team, but the Montreal Canadiens are fourth in the Eastern Conference. What then?
You don't hear about this.
You probably don't hear about it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's happened.
Oh,
The
2
reason
minutes?
I think Bieksa had the correct opinion on Hockey Night. He's like, the reason we're hearing about this is because it's been happening and it needs to be solved. So
It's happened a few times.
We got to do this publicly because it's happened a few times. So let's go make an example of him. You know,
Interesting.
And so,
guys are late and you don't hear about it.
Yeah.
because it's not a big deal.
so I was thinking about it because he's a free agent too, right? So this benching is not an investment in this player, right? So I was like, so what's the point of embarrassing him and doing this? And it sounds like he handled it well. So I probably shouldn't get my neck up about it. It's not about Jonathan Drouin. It's about the idea of being late. So it's not a message to Jonathan Drouin. I imagine part of the reason that Drouin took it so well is St. Louis goes, look, we got Slavkovsky,
Mhm.
Caulfield, Suzuki, even though he's our captain, Jack-Eye, Cooley. We have a ton of young guys, and we got to make an example out of you so they don't do it. Right? So they understand the consequences of being late. They understand the consequences of not paying attention to detail. Because at the end of the day, it's 2 minutes, which you can decide whether or not that's a big thing or a small thing. It's probably a small thing, but you wouldn't be 2 minutes late for Lou Lamoriello, right?
Hell no.
Like you gotta dot your I's and cross your T's and make sure you're clean shaven and your suit, and it's all part of being a professional. So the Habs aren't being as hard ass as Lou.
Mm-hmm.
All they ask is that you be on time.
Yep.
Right? So you get to send a message to your young guys without punishing any of them. It's preemptive. I don't know. It's unfortunate for Drouin that it's got to be him, but
He made it so. He's got to
Yep.
take responsibility for that.
yep. So it sounds like I don't think anyone's done anything wrong.
I find it interesting, though, in sports, the expectations. Because from team to team, there are different expectations, right? You're going to have, here's what we expect of you winning wise. Like, and I'm going to give you a Formula One example for a second.
Oh, let's go.
I know. So number one team right now is Red Bull. They've gone 1-2 in the last two races. Tied for second, you've got Aston Martin, you've got Mercedes. Mercedes won 8 team championships in a row, leading up to just after the pandemic. And after the first race, where they finished like third in points or second in points or whatever, their team principal comes out and says, we're changing the entire car. Because they lost last year, they came third and almost took second away from Ferrari.
Almost.
And this year, They know the car isn't going to win, so they're tossing it. Whereas there's other teams that would be dying to be in third place, but that's not good enough.
They have a different standard.
And I think that's fascinating, right? Like I understand why people feel like, oh, it's a humiliation for Drouin, but when I've seen the Toronto Maple Leaf, they used to call it the Toronto Maple Leaf disease, where
blue and white disease.
Whether or not that's real, there was a perception that you got to Toronto and you could, I mean, listen, you win a little bit, you'll probably get a statue.
The Toronto Maple Leafs, it's no big deal. Right.
And I think sometimes as fans of the Leafs, we have fallen into this where it's like there has been a couple of years where I think I've given too many excuses for the Leafs losing in Game 7. The reality should be that they need to win. And I'm glad that St. Louis is setting that precedent now, because that is going to carry over for these young guys over and over and over again going forward. And this game is a game you'll never remember.
That team is undeniably going to be such a problem.
They got it. They got it all. It's coming.
They have the second highest cap hit right now in the NHL because of Carey Price and all the LTIR numbers that they have on the books, and it's an absolute farce in the NHL. I was just looking at that. But the funniest thing with the Canadians this weekend is Juraj Slavkovsky going back to Slovakia to take his high school exams, and the picture of him just sitting in class.
I haven't seen this.
There. So here he is.
Yeah. I don't know if I would have posted that photo. He looks pissed.
He's in Slovakia doing high school. Think he's happy?
Well, I think
should be in the NHL.
I love that.
Well,
I love that.
I don't think he's happy about it, but he's probably also like, can you put your fucking phone away, please?
Right. Why you take a picture of me?
Yeah. Dude. You know what? You know what I never had to do so I never wanted to do any of my high school exams. You know what I never had to do before my high school exams? Take a transatlantic flight.
And then somebody's sticking a phone in your face, being like,
hey,
you're back here.
Hey, millionaire guy.
I'm going to post this on Twitter.
6'4" and couldn't hide if he tried. Like,
it kind of sucks, too, that you got to go back to high school. Like, when you're already in the NHL, you're like, I'm here. I got to take this stupid exam.
60 NHL games, and you're like, I got to study for my exam.
That sucks.
I thought it was hilarious. Poor guy. Yeah.
Also,
tough life,
really cool class. Like, they just let you do Slovakian graffiti behind you in your class.
Maybe it's an art class.
Yeah, it's school, Steve.
What's your art exam? It's like those TikToks when you have a macaroni picture due at midnight. Or whatever, like
yeah.
Sports majors when they have to watch hockey by midnight.
Were you guys in school? When you guys were in school, did you guys have to do the upload the paper by midnight tool?
Yeah, it was awful.
Wasn't that brutal? Because the site would inevitably crash because everybody was loading it. No one was uploading it before midnight. Yeah. Jesse? Did you have that too?
Uploading your exam?
Your exam, yeah. Or your paper or whatever.
Yeah.
I hated that. It always crashed.
I had a really awkward encounter with a professor where I got 0 on something. And I had to be like, why? He's like, you didn't submit the thing. I go, yeah, I did. He's like, well, I didn't get it, so you get a 0. And I'm like, but I did. I swear to God, I did it. Like, what do you want? Here's the assignment right now. I don't know what to tell you. And it was just, well, you didn't do it properly or whatever. I'm like, listen, something went wrong because I did it and sent it. And I'm like panicking.
Did he still give you a 0?
No.
You negotiated
in the
up.
end, I negotiated. And I also wanted to be like, okay, last episode we were talking about bird electives. The philosophy of love and sex.
Why would you have ever taken that? Philosophy, you should be out.
No, because I was like any other young student where I was like,
sex, huh?
Yeah, this one has sex in the title. I bet it's an interesting and easy course. And then in the first week, it's just all of us looking at each other like we've all made an egregious mistake.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking
it's philosophy. It's stupid.
Why do you think I dropped out of university? I was in a philosophy major course.
See, I took another philosophy class and I liked it.
I liked it too, but man, try writing an exam with and then trying to pull back Aristotle and Plato and oh my God. Yeah. Changes the way you think. It's amazing, but at the same time, it's a lot. It's a lot.
I did nothing but take really difficult electives, and I wish I didn't.
Jesse, what kind of electives did you take?
Very similar ones. There's only a certain different electives you could take in RTA.
The free space was pop culture.
Yeah, no, I took that one too.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's only like a list of 5 or 10 in RTA that you
But
can
it
really
filled
choose
up.
from.
It filled up really fast.
They got rid of the English minor requirement, like
Good.
the year after I left. So
Good.
yeah, a lot of those kids now they're having a lot easier. Now they have the sports sector. You can just go do sports media instead of just the RTA program, which is very nice.
It couldn't have been good for the friggin' professors too.
Hmm.
Just an entire classroom of people mailing it in.
Yeah.
Because it's for their minor.
that they
gives a
didn't
shit.
decide. Like, we didn't decide to be an English minor. We have to do it to graduate.
Who's going through that pile of resumes? Whoa. Cancel all the rest of the interviews. This guy is an English minor. This is our candidate.
That's it.
We're going with them.
That's why Sportsnet let you write the email that's sent out every night.
Yeah, they're like, whoa. You know, listen, I know you're a weirdo with a YouTube channel, but it says here you read several children's books when you were 20.
In Child's Play?
And
You discovered that Rumpelstiltskin was just a murder story?
you know what, man? I had a lot of friends. You know what? I miss school. And I miss being around. Not for a fucking second.
Yeah, no.
I don't miss school at all.
No, school sucks.
No, but no, you don't. You miss your friends.
Yuri Slavkovsky also went to a primary school while he was in Slovakia.
Oh, that's
and he
cool.
visited a bunch of kids and he signed a bunch of
Oh, I like
autographs,
that.
and
See,
he
that's the
did some
kind of
good
school
stuff.
I'm in for.
Yeah.
I like that.
Look at that guy.
By the way, when
Okay, weird trend I'm noticing in this photo. There are 2 students holding their shoes because they are trying to get him
Please.
to sign their shoes.
what's wrong with that?
Did I ever tell you about the time I went to I think it was a middle school in Durham somewhere, Whitby, maybe.
Uh-huh.
And one student was like, "Will you sign my shoes?" After I was done talking to the class. And I was like, I don't want to wreck your shoes. Your parents are going to get upset. No, they're not going to get upset. They said it's fine. I go, okay. And then the entire class took off their shoes.
What?
And I had to sign like 20 pairs of shoes.
And they're hot.
And I'm like, oh yeah, first of all, just,
They're always hot
it's Canada, so it's just wet.
and
Just
salty.
wet, stinky salt feet. And I'm like, and like I'm looking at the teacher and I'm like, you gotta let it be known to any of the parents who are upset that I'm about to ruin their children's shoes that I'm doing this under duress. Like I didn't ask to do this. I don't want to do this. It's just all these people are putting their shoes in my face and I have to sign them. And luckily I didn't get in trouble.
That's weird.
With my shitty signature too. I signed all these pairs of shoes. Stop it. Weird children.
Imagine how long that
with,
took.
with this trend. Get a piece of
It's
paper.
weird
like
because
everyone else.
you're not like you're not an athlete.
I'm not Uri Slavkovsky.
Yeah. It makes sense if you're like a basketball player that's a basketball sneaker, or even like soccer or hockey. Like hockey, it makes sense a little. At least he's an athlete. It's not signing a skate.
Yeah, he's
but
gone
like,
for a run once or
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah,
but
Like, dude-
but it doesn't really correlate.
No. So
all the kids bring their podcast mics.
One time.
Yeah, right?
No,
Or
let's say you
or
got
their
like
gaming
a Yeti,
headsets.
like one of those USB Yeti mics.
Yeah.
Like Steve Dangle signed my USB-C mic. Yeah, like that's fucking fun.
He signed my laptop even.
My top of my MacBook.
After a post-game show at Gate 5 in Scotiabank Arena, then Air Canada Centre for Leafs TV, Bob McGill signed someone's jersey, and then that person brought it over to me. And I was like, what? No, I didn't play for the team. They're like, no, please, I really want you to sign it. Like next to Bob McGill. And Bob's just looking over at me with an air of someone who had blood, sweat, and tears go into that crest, just looking, going, are you fucking
Nah,
kidding
Leafs
me right now?
jerseys make sense for you to sign.
By the way,
I guess.
I was up in cottage country in Ontario this weekend, speaking of Bob McGill, and I saw one of his real estate posters. He's a real estate agent up there now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did you
He
get
left Leafs TV to do that.
Did you get a good amount for your season seats on Friday? Because you didn't go to the St. Pat's game.
I don't have any
but I
season
assume
seats,
you
Jesse.
sold them. And it must have been
You guys went to a game last Wednesday. You're talking to me
must have
about
been a
this?
pretty penny.
Oh, Adam was at a chalet. So
I was at
yeah.
I was at my chalet.
You must have got good money for the St. Pat's Day. Like that. I was
it's
wondering,
a big
like,
game. Big
what
money
what
maker
they
for
sell, yeah.
Daddy Warbucks
You circled
Wild
that on the
here.
calendar. You're like, I'm not going to this game. I'm going to sell that, make up back some of the money.
You know what? I just felt like over the pandemic that that I said to myself, I will go to every freaking game I have a chance to go to. And I actually broke
41?
that promise to myself because I didn't go with you guys last week to the Avalanche game. You guys went. I didn't go.
I didn't go.
Oh, you didn't go either.
No,
yeah,
I wasn't there.
We were supposed to go.
No, I wasn't there.
I said anytime I get a chance to go to a Leafs game from now on, I'm going because I never want to miss that
all
opportunity.
41.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Tickets. Yeah.
Got to go to a Avs game where they won with producer Drew.
I'm sure he was insufferable.
Yeah, thanks for that. Appreciate that. It was really cool.
Luke Gazdic was on Tim and Friends, and I want to play this clip because I think it's an interesting opinion in hockey. There's been a debate. I remember Steve early on in this show. He looked at Jesse and I, and he's like, "How long do you think fighting will be in hockey?" And I was like, "I don't know, forever." And Jesse at that point was mute, so he didn't say anything. And that was if you've been around long enough, you remember when Jesse said nothing.
That was peace sign, Jesse.
That's right. So
Let's talk about Luke Gazdic from Facebook.
Steve, there's a Facebook video, but it's from Tim and Friends' thing.
Steve, what do you think about Adam getting his videos from Facebook?
All I did was grab a Facebook video. Okay, I couldn't find it on Sportsnet's Twitter or at sportsnet.ca, but I found it on. Do you think
Adam's
Sportsnet makes
downloading
things easy to
Facebook
find?
content
They
to
don't
the
make
show.
things easy to find.
Adam found this on the page Patriot Freedom Takes.
Share if you like the military. One like for one Purple Heart. I don't know.
The Freedom Eagle.
No,
Canadian flags.
Yeah.
guys. If,
let's go,
if
Adam.
Sportsnet put it out equally on all channels, it would have been easy to
Yeah.
find, but it's not.
All right.
No.
Fuck Trudeau, SNCLavalin.org. Let's go, Adam.
So poor Luke Gazdic is on this freedom page. No, I'm kidding. He's on Tim and Friends, and so the QMJHL, for context here, banned fighting last week. They said that this is it, we're done. And in a vacuum, you can understand why that might be problematic for them because fighting might be problematic because essentially you've entrusted a bunch of people who are not adults yet to a league.
Well,
and the league is allowing bare knuckle boxing on knife shoes.
it's not just not adults yet. Some are and some aren't.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got some kids like Crosby, I think was 15 when he was playing in the Q.
So was Bedard.
And then there are kids that are 20.
Yeah.
Imagine, you remember high school? You remember going into grade 9 and remember how big the grade 12s and in our case grade 13s were? They were huge.
Yeah.
Scary. They drove to school.
I don't know how to properly word this. Maybe someone who's better at science can, but there's a difference between being a small adult and a small child.
Yes. So before we over-argue the point, I want to play the clip because there is a lot of backlash for this because people believe that it's striking at the tradition of what hockey is. Hockey is inherently violent. I don't think anybody is going to dispute that.
No.
But here's what Luke Gazdic had to say with Tim and Friends.
Now, I'm obviously biased because it's sad to think about. If I couldn't fight in junior, I would have never got drafted to the NHL. And that's just plain fact, right? And now you're going to have, if this happens, you're going to have some kids that don't have fighting in junior that maybe go to pro hockey and all of a sudden you're exposed to this when you haven't been in junior. I don't like it at all. For me, it's a way of policing the game. Listen, I understand these are young kids. They're wearing visors. They're pretty fragile and brains are still developing and all that. But there is a major need in the game for this. And yes, we can bring it down a little bit, get rid of some of the stage ones, as people call it. And at the end of the day, for me, this is what I did for a living. So I truly love this part of the game. And I hate to see it go, especially like that. I know I'm not the only one. I think it's a bit of a joke, to be honest. And we'll see if other leagues follow. But like I said, I'm not getting drafted if I didn't fight when I was that young. And it's just disappointing to see. We want to protect the players at all costs and make sure everyone's healthy. But I still think it's a massive part of the game.
So, okay, this is all due respect to Luke Gazdic. I haven't met the guy. I'm not going to cut him up. But
Well, it's not about cutting him up personally. It's a viewpoint. I think he represents a massive amount of hockey fans when he says that.
yeah. And I would like, I tell you what, if he's trying to keep fighting in the game, he did a terrible job there. But because he said, yes, I know about the brains are still developing and we're worried about this and we're worried about that.
We want to keep everybody
did
safe.
He did a great job presenting all the bullet points for why fighting should be taken out and provided none for why it should stay.
I thought he made a great argument for taking out fighting.
Yeah, it should stay because I wouldn't have been drafted.
like with all due respect, like I'm sure he scored NHL goals. Like Luke, you weren't a bad hockey player. You know, you made it because you were a good hockey player. Like, you know, maybe you wouldn't have made the NHL, or maybe you wouldn't have been called
Maybe you're
up.
playing in Europe.
They need a tough guy. I would say you might have become an even better hockey player if you didn't have to do all that bullshit. You know what I mean? If you didn't,
if you just focused on skill development.
Right.
yeah, like I mean,
And that's not always going to be possible for everybody. We're keeping that in mind.
but like-
I'm not trying to be insulting here. I think it's a point that's worth bringing up.
Yeah, but
like-
his half of his points were the other side of the argument, which were better than his points.
yeah, like it's a joke. Why? Why is it a joke? Like the one argument that does make some sense, I don't think it's very strong, but these kids are going to get out of the QMJHL and they're going to go to pro hockey, and then there's going to be fighting, and they're not going to know how to do it. And there's a big problem that I have with that argument, and that is university hockey. These dudes
Doesn't allow it.
It doesn't allow it. These dudes are wearing cages.
Mhm.
Like, you know, the adjustment from the college game to the professional game, part of that adjustment is you're playing with probably just a visor for like the first time in your career. You know, I'm surprised we don't see more guys.
There's going to be, it's going to happen soon. Somebody's going to step into the NHL with a full cage on.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
It's gonna happen.
Why don't guys who go straight from college to the NHL and they play those few games at the end of April, why don't they, as a transition, go in wearing the full cage? It's what you're used to.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Anyway, that's a completely different argument. We're getting sidetracked here. But I think I wish he and other people would be a little bit more honest with the conversation, because I think the conversation comes back to, I like it. There's no real good argument for keeping fighting in hockey. And listen, I am not clutching my pearls and getting up from my seat and leaving when there's a fight. I'm watching and I'm freaking out with the rest of you because I like it. Steve, can you justify it? No, I can't. No, I can justify it by, or maybe not justify it. I can defend myself by saying it scratches an itch in my primal brain. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot, however, even though I like watching a good hockey fight, I cannot formulate a good argument for why it should remain. So for as long as it's here, yeah, sure. If there's a fight, I'm there. I'm all for it. I'm going to get up out of my seat and I'm going to love it like the rest of you. And then once it's had its day and it's gone, I'll be like, yeah, fair enough. Because there's no good argument.
I also wonder if at the junior levels, like Luke brings up a point about like, well, they get to the pro levels and there's fighting.
Yeah.
What are they going to do about that? Well, if you have enough junior levels not fighting, then eventually I think the idea would be it just disappears.
Yes. So there has to, at some point, you have to begin the transition. And also, you know who had their first fight as a professional hockey player? John Scott. He played university.
Mm-hmm.
He played university, and I think it was the Iowa Wild needed a tough guy, and they're like, "Hey, do you fight?" And he's like, "No." And they're like, "Cool. Well, you're 6'7" and 250, so have fun.
Why not try?
Yeah, why not try?"
And I don't think anybody's saying like, oh, fighting will never happen in the NHL again. No, fighting happens in all sports. Like we see fights in baseball and basketball and football. Football, like there's some violent, heinous shit that happens with dude throwing helmets and stepping on fingers and all that kind of stuff. But then there's punishment for it.
Yeah.
Right now in hockey, it's 5 minutes to get sit down and then you come back in the game. There's just going to be a punishment for fighting. You can fight if you want. It's just going to be a higher penalty. And that's it. That's fine.
I think the reason there's not more fighting in football, because I always wonder that, like, it's a high contact sport. I think it fucking hurts because they don't have the big thick hockey gloves and you're punching what exactly?
Yeah, and the helmets, like in hockey now, everybody fights with a helmet on. You know, they don't usually take off the cages anymore.
And the visor on.
So with football, like they have their helmets on, you're not punching that. You know, you're breaking your hand if you're punching it against a football helmet. So there's a little less of that, but there's a lot of shoving. Mm-hmm. And occasionally, like a couple times a year, not even a couple, more than that, probably, you get fights, guys thrown out of games. Like, fights are going to happen in hockey. It's just going to be a suspension.
I also wonder, too, like,
or a game.
Not everything that you like can be justified. So it's I think it's fully within the realm of possibility to say, yeah, I like a good fight, and I can't justify it.
I think it's okay.
I think like
that.
I like race car driving. It's bad for the environment. Tough to justify, but I love it.
I think it's okay that it's here, and it's okay that it'll go away.
Okay.
Is that sitting on the fence? Yeah, maybe. Maybe that is even. Again, I can't justify the fact that it's here, other than it's always been here.
Right. I think Jesse's point too about there's fights in every sport. Yeah, that's the problem too with hockey sometimes. Like hockey is it can be a very insular sport. Hockey fans are hockey fans, and they will tell you they're hockey fans. And I can't tell you how many hockey fans are like, I don't even fucking watch any other sports. And I don't understand that. I love sports. I love competition. I love the drama. I'm in it for the drama. That's what I'm here for. It's why I brought up the Flyers. Holy shit. What a reality show they are.
People can be like that about music.
Yeah, they can. I only like rock.
Yeah.
I only like rock. This kind of rock from this era, from this age to this age. I think if you look at other sports, you look at, God, they did a whole thing on the Ron Artest thing, right?
Oh my God.
Malice at the Palace.
Malice in the Palace. Which admittedly wasn't great. I was expecting more. I thought that was not the best performance, just as an aside.
I could have listened to Jermaine O'Neal the whole time. I didn't think he was in there enough.
He was fascinating. But like, I just feel like, yeah, Jess, the point about the penalties are just be higher is a really good one. And from the business perspective, like, look at it like these guys would look at it. Look at it like the executives look at it. Purely capitalistic. Mm-hmm. Do you or do you not want to have to deal with the insurance claims that come from a career fighting? Do you think the NHL wants another class action lawsuit? And my answer to that would be absolutely not. They would prefer to avoid paying the lawyers' fees and then the inevitable payments that they're going to have to make to the players afterwards. So that's why it's going.
And like, again, we're going with they won't be prepared for when they get to the NHL. Mm-hmm. Again, it's its own league. The QMJHL is not junior. The majority of the players in that league will not play in the NHL.
That's also true.
And I don't know what percentage of the players will even play pro anywhere. A bunch of them are going to go to, they can't go to American college, so they can go to a Canadian college or university. They're ineligible to play.
You can't go in an American college?
You can, but you're not eligible to play hockey there. Yep.
Is that how the NCAA does it?
Because the NCAA classifies major, junior as professional.
Mm-hmm. You have to be an amateur athlete to play
Junior
NCAA.
Junior A is fine. So you can play in there is a...
But because you're getting a $200 a week per diem, that's professional hockey?
Or whatever it is. Yeah, I think it's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
You can play for the Penticton Vs. You can't play for the Vancouver Giants. Right? But at the end of the day, the 15-year-olds, okay, it's like one guy every couple years, 2-3 years. We don't have to focus on the number 15. 16, though. You can be a young 16-year-old fighting an old 20-year-old. Like someone who's virgin on 21. I want to say there are certain situations where you can be 21 at the end of a season. Mm-hmm. Like when I covered junior that one year, there were a handful of players that were still older than I was.
Wow.
Not a lot. It was
still though.
Like I was older than like 95% of the league. But yeah, you're talking about huge size discrepancies, huge maturity discrepancies, and at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to fight for a child's right to fight an adult.
Right.
And an adult's right to fight a child.
Why?
Adam, underneath your Luke Gazdic video, there's these truck videos. They're truck simulators.
Jesse's been watching this for the last 5 minutes, and it's been so distracting.
What are they?
So they're truck simulator videos of just dudes carry. Oh, that's something else.
Taking off their underwear.
Biggest log with expert truck driver. Just people playing the truck simulator video game.
Yes,
but how many views do you think this has?
Facebook's so goofy.
It's
because
Facebook. 4.6 billion.
No. 27 million on this truck simulator video. 27,000 comments. This truck simulator video has 39 million views.
How many does the underwear video have?
The underwear video has 1.3 million.
Oh,
The truck simulator videos do a lot better than the underwear video.
interesting.
Jesse, what the what?
Oh, that's
Putting a condom on a toe.
Adam, this is what is underneath the Luke Gazdic video.
Listen, I didn't say that Facebook was a great platform. I was
Why did we bring this up?
because I couldn't find it
Oh
anywhere.
my God.
Someone talked to the producers at Sportsnet. I just want to find the clip.
A
It's a good
python couldn't digest its huge prey. Oh my God, he regurgitated. A python
clip.
just threw up something.
No, we don't need to see that, guys. Also, can I just say that I don't know what Facebook wants to be. Every time I'm on there, which is rare, I'm confused as to what the purpose is now.
What is
What are we doing here?
what does a fire want to be other than a bigger fire?
I guess.
That's
weird.
That's how I look
Weird. Hey, should we do the press conference?
at it. Sure.
No.
We don't have time?
We don't have time.
Oh, bullshit. That's Jesse's fault. Well, listen,
What?
it's Jesse's fault.
As are most things.
Yes.
So we will, you know what? Fine. We'll save a press conference for
The
Wednesday.
compliment section should be very kind about that.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be thrilled. Compliment section, we love you. Don't worry. We'll be back with a longer press conference on Wednesday and a Leafs Islanders game to wrap up, which I'm excited about because those are always good too.
Pierre spelt with a 3 because he's going to get a hat trick. That's going to be the LFR title.
Isn't he on a 3-game goal scoring streak right now?
You bet.
Oh, it's
Jesse,
good.
I don't think that music's loud enough. I think you should crank it a little louder.
The Steve Dangle Podcast.
Powered by Sports Interaction. Want to bet?
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Connection complete.